Chapter 1. Shattered Beginnings. In the bustling city of Arendelle, where dreams were woven amidst towering skyscrapers, lived a young woman named Elara. She was a spirited and ambitious architect, renowned for her innovative designs that blended modernity with nature. Her life seemed perfect: a promising career, a beautiful apartment, and a loving fiancé, Adrian. Adrian was a successful entrepreneur, charming and attentive, and their love story was the envy of many. But beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect relationship, cracks had begun to form. Adrian's business demanded more and more of his time, leaving Elara feeling increasingly isolated and neglected. The late nights, missed dinners, and broken promises began to take a toll on their relationship. Elara, who had once been patient and understanding, found herself growing resentful. One fateful evening, after another missed date, Elara confronted Adrian. The argument that ensued was unlike any they had before. Words were said that couldn't be taken back, and the love that once held them together seemed to shatter before their eyes. That night, Adrian packed a bag and left their shared apartment, leaving Elara alone in the darkness, her heart heavy with grief. Chapter 2. The Void. In the weeks following Adrian's departure, Elara's life felt empty. The vibrant city of Arendelle, once a source of inspiration, now seemed cold and distant. She threw herself into her work, hoping to fill the void left by Adrian's absence. Her colleagues noticed the change in her. She was more driven than ever, but the spark in her eyes had dimmed. Elara's projects flourished, but her personal life continued to crumble. She avoided social gatherings, preferring the solitude of her office late into the night. Her friends grew concerned, but Elara brushed off their attempts to reach out, insisting she was fine. She had always been independent, and she believed she could handle the pain on her own. But the loneliness weighed heavily on her. Every corner of her apartment reminded her of Adrian, their photos, the gifts they had exchanged, the plans they had made for the future. As the days turned into weeks, Elara began to question everything she had believed about love and relationships. Was it worth the heartache? Could she ever trust someone again? Chapter 3. Unexpected Encounters. One rainy afternoon, as Elara was heading to a client meeting, she bumped into an old friend from university, Lucas. Lucas had been her classmate and confidant during her architecture studies, but they had lost touch after graduation. Seeing him again brought back a flood of memories: late-night study sessions, coffee-fueled brainstorming, and the carefree days of their youth. Lucas was now a landscape architect, working on projects that focused on sustainable urban design. His easygoing nature and warm smile were a welcome relief from the tension that had filled Elara's life. They decided to grab coffee after the meeting to catch up on lost time. As they sat in a cozy cafe, sheltered from the rain outside, Elara found herself opening up to Lucas about her recent struggles. She spoke of the breakup, the loneliness, and the doubt that had settled in her heart. Lucas listened patiently, offering words of comfort and understanding. He didn't try to fix her problems or offer advice, he simply listened. And for the first time in weeks, Elara felt heard. Chapter 4. A New Friendship. Elara and Lucas began to spend more time together. Their friendship, once dormant, blossomed into something new and refreshing. They met regularly to discuss their projects, share ideas, and explore the city's architecture. Lucas introduced Elara to his world of sustainable design, and she found herself inspired by his passion for creating spaces that were not just functional, but also harmonious with nature. Their conversations ranged from the technical aspects of architecture to the philosophical questions of life and love. Lucas had a way of making Elara see things from a different perspective, and she found comfort in his calm and thoughtful demeanor. Slowly, the heaviness in her heart began to lift. As the weeks passed, Elara realized that she had started looking forward to their meetings, not just for the professional exchange, but for the companionship Lucas provided. He had become a steady presence in her life, a friend who didn't judge her or expect anything in return. And though the pain of her breakup still lingered, she found solace in the fact that she wasn't going through it alone. Chapter 5. A Chance at Redemption. One day, while working on a new project, Elara received an unexpected call from Adrian. His voice, once so familiar, now felt distant and strange. He asked to meet her, saying there were things he needed to say, things he should have said before he left. Elara hesitated, Part of her wanted to refuse, to protect herself from reopening old wounds. But another part of her was curious. What could Adrian possibly have to say? After all this time, reluctantly, she agreed to meet him at their favorite park, a place that held many memories of their time together. As she walked through the park, the autumn leaves crunching under her feet, Elara spotted Adrian sitting on a bench, looking lost in thought. When he saw her, he stood up, his eyes filled with an emotion she couldn't quite place. They sat in silence for a moment before Adrian began to speak. He apologized for how things had ended, for the pain he had caused her. He explained how the pressures of his business had consumed him, leading him to neglect the most important person in his life. He admitted that he had made a mistake by leaving, and that he had spent the past few months regretting his decision. Elara listened, her emotions a whirlwind of anger, sadness, and something she hadn't expected understanding. She realized that while Adrian's actions had hurt her deeply, she had also contributed to the breakdown of their relationship by not communicating her own needs and frustrations. When Adrian asked if there was any chance for them to start over, Elara found herself at a crossroads. She cared for Adrian, and part of her wanted to believe that they could rebuild what they had lost. But another part of her knew that things could never be the same. She had changed, and so had he. In the end, Elara told Adrian that while she forgave him, she needed to move on. Their relationship, as beautiful as it had once been, was a chapter of her life that had come to a close. She wished him well and walked away, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. It was the end of one story, but the beginning of another. Chapter 6. The Healing Process. After her meeting with Adrian, Elara felt a sense of closure she hadn't realized she needed. The conversation had been difficult, but it had also allowed her to let go of the lingering pain and anger she had been carrying. For the first time in months, she felt free. Elara began to focus more on herself, taking time to do the things she loved. She reconnected with old hobbies, painting, hiking, and exploring new parts of the city. She also started practicing mindfulness and meditation, finding peace in the quiet moments of her day. Lucas continued to be a supportive friend, encouraging Elara to embrace this new chapter of her life. He invited her to join him on nature walks, introducing her to the beauty of the natural world that she had often overlooked. These walks became a cherished part of her routine, offering her a sense of calm and perspective. As Elara healed, she began to reflect on what she truly wanted in life. She realized that her career, while important, wasn't the only thing that defined her. She wanted to build meaningful connections, to live a life that was balanced and fulfilling. And most importantly, she wanted to learn how to love herself, independent of any relationship. Chapter 7. A Spark Ignites. As the seasons changed, so did the dynamic between Elara and Lucas. What had started as a rekindling of friendship began to evolve into something more. There was a new tension between them, a tension that neither of them acknowledged, but both felt. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Elara invited Lucas over for dinner. They cooked together, laughing as they experimented with new recipes and shared stories from their past. The atmosphere was light and easy, but beneath the surface, there was an undeniable connection growing between them. After dinner, as they sat on the balcony, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance, Lucas turned to Elara and said, "I've been meaning to tell you something." Elara's heart skipped a beat. She had a feeling she knew what he was going to say, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to hear it. "What is it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Lucas hesitated for a moment before taking her hand. "Elara, I care about you. A lot. And I don't just mean as a friend. I've felt this way for a while, but I didn't want to complicate things, especially after everything you've been through. But I can't keep pretending that I don't feel something more." Elara looked at him, her emotions a mix of surprise, joy, and fear. She had grown to care deeply for Lucas, but she hadn't allowed herself to consider the possibility of a romantic relationship with him. The wounds from her breakup with Adrian were still healing, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to open her heart again. But as she looked into Lucas's eyes, she saw sincerity, patience, and a love that was gentle and unwavering. It wasn't the whirlwind romance she had experienced with Adrian, it was something deeper, something that felt safe and enduring. Elara realized that what she felt for Lucas was different, but perhaps that was exactly what she needed. Taking a deep breath, She squeezed Lucas's hand. I care about you too, Lucas, more than I've let myself admit. But I'm scared. I don't want to rush into anything and risk getting hurt again. Lucas nodded, understanding in his eyes. We don't have to rush anything, Elara. I'm willing to take things slow, to give you the time you need. All I want is to be by your side, however that looks. Elara smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Thank you, Lucas. That means more to me than you know. They spent the rest of the evening talking about their hopes and fears, their dreams and doubts. There was no need for grand gestures or declarations of love, just an honest conversation between two people who cared deeply for one another. As the night drew to a close, they both knew that something had changed between them, and that whatever came next, they would face it together. Chapter 8. Navigating New Waters. The days that followed were a delicate dance between friendship and something more. Elara and Lucas continued to spend time together, but there was a new awareness between them, a subtle shift in their interactions. Every touch, every glance, carried a deeper meaning. And while they hadn't labeled their relationship, it was clear that things were evolving. Elara found herself thinking about Lucas more often, replaying their conversations in her mind and smiling at the smallest memories. She was still cautious, but the fear that had once gripped her was slowly being replaced by a quiet excitement. For the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful about the future. At work, Elara's creativity flourished. She felt inspired, her designs reflecting the renewed sense of purpose she felt in her life. Her colleagues noticed the change in her. She was more confident, more open, and her work was more innovative than ever. It was as if a weight had been lifted, allowing her to fully express herself. Lucas, too, seemed to be thriving. His projects were gaining recognition, and he often invited Elara to collaborate with him on ideas that blended their expertise. They became a formidable team, their skills complementing each other in ways they hadn't anticipated. Working together only strengthened their bond, and they found joy in the creative process, pushing each other to new heights. But despite the growing connection between them, Elara still had moments of doubt. There were times when she would pull back, afraid of getting too close too quickly. She worried that she was repeating the same patterns that had led to her heartbreak with Adrian. Lucas, ever patient, never pressured her. He gave her the space she needed, always reassuring her that he was there, no matter what. Chapter 9. A Test of Trust. As their relationship deepened, Elara and Lucas faced their first real test. Lucas had been offered a major project in another city, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to design an eco-friendly urban park. The project would take several months, and while Lucas was excited about the challenge, he was also torn about leaving Arendelle and, more importantly, leaving Elara. When Lucas told Elara about the offer, she felt a mix of emotions. She was proud of him and knew how much the project meant to him, but she couldn't ignore the pang of fear that settled in her chest. The idea of being apart for so long brought back memories of her relationship with Adrian, and she worried that the distance would strain her relationship with Lucas. Lucas, sensing her apprehension, reassured her. Elara, I don't want to go if it means losing you. We can make this work, but only if you're comfortable with it. Elara appreciated his honesty, but she knew she couldn't hold him back from pursuing his dreams. After all, wasn't that what she loved about him, his passion, his drive? She realized that if their relationship was going to survive, it had to be built on trust, not fear. I want you to go, Lucas, she finally said. This is an amazing opportunity for you, and I don't want you to miss out because of me. We'll find a way to make it work, no matter what. Lucas smiled, relieved and touched by her support. We'll figure it out together, Elara, I promise. They spent the next few weeks preparing for Lucas's departure, making plans for regular visits and video calls. They both knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to stay connected, no matter the distance. And while the thought of being apart was daunting, it also brought them closer together, as they realized how much they meant to each other. Chapter 10. The Distance Between Us. The first few weeks after Lucas left were challenging for Elara. She missed him more than she had anticipated, and the absence of his presence in her daily life was palpable. Their video calls and messages helped, but they couldn't fully replace the comfort of having him by her side. Elara threw herself into her work, using it as a distraction from the loneliness that sometimes crept in. She stayed late at the office, working on new designs and taking on additional projects. Her colleagues noticed her renewed intensity, and while they admired her dedication, they also worried that she was pushing herself too hard. Lucas, too, was struggling with the distance. While he loved the challenge of his new project, he found himself constantly thinking about Elara, wondering how she was coping and wishing he could be there with her. He made sure to call her every day, even if it was just for a few minutes, to remind her that he was still there, even if only in spirit. Despite their efforts to stay connected, there were moments when the distance felt overwhelming. Miscommunications and missed calls led to frustration, and there were times when they both questioned whether they had made the right decision. But whenever doubt crept in, they reminded each other of their commitment to making the relationship work, and that no challenge was insurmountable if they faced it together. Chapter 11. An unexpected visitor. One evening, as Elara was finishing up work, she received a surprise visitor, Adrian. He was in town for business and had decided to drop by unannounced. Elara was caught off guard by his appearance, unsure of how to react. It had been months since their last conversation, and she had assumed that chapter of her life was firmly closed. Adrian, however, seemed eager to reconnect. He asked about her work, her life, and seemed genuinely interested in how she had been doing. Elara couldn't deny that there was a familiarity between them, a comfort that came from years of shared history. But as they talked, she realized that the feelings she once had for Adrian had faded, replaced by a deep sense of closure. When Adrian brought up their past, expressing regret for how things had ended, Elara listened patiently. But when he hinted at the possibility of rekindling their relationship, she knew she had to be honest. Adrian, she said gently, I've moved on. I'm in a different place now, and I've found someone who makes me truly happy. I appreciate everything we shared, but that part of my life is over. Adrian looked disappointed, but nodded in understanding. I'm happy for you, Elara. You deserve to be happy. I just needed to say my piece and let you know that I'm sorry for everything. With that, they parted ways, and Elara felt a sense of relief. Seeing Adrian again had been unexpected, but it had also reaffirmed her feelings for Lucas. She knew now, more than ever, that Lucas was the person she wanted to be with, and that their relationship, though tested, was something worth fighting for. Chapter 12. The Return. As the months passed, Elara and Lucas found their rhythm despite the distance. They visited each other whenever possible, and their relationship grew stronger with each reunion. The time apart, while difficult, had given them both a greater appreciation for the time they spent together. Finally, the day came when Lucas's project was completed, and he returned to Arendelle. Their reunion was filled with joy and relief, as they embraced and laughed, the months of separation melting away in an instant. It was clear that the distance had only deepened their bond, and they were more in love than ever. Lucas moved back into his old apartment, just a few blocks from Elara's, and they quickly fell back into their old routines. But this time, there was a new level of intimacy and understanding between them. They had weathered the storm of long distance, and it had made them stronger as a couple. With Lucas back in the city, they began to talk about their future together. They both knew that they didn't want to rush things, but they also recognized that they were ready to take the next step in their relationship. Whether it was moving in together, traveling, or planning new projects, they were excited to see where life would take them. Chapter 13. New Beginnings. With their relationship solidified, Elara and Lucas began to focus on building a future together. They decided to collaborate on a major project, a sustainable urban development that would combine Elara's architectural expertise with Lucas's landscape design skills. The project was ambitious, but it was also a perfect representation of their shared values and vision for the future. Working together brought them even closer. As they navigated the challenges of the project and celebrated their successes, they spent long hours discussing designs, brainstorming ideas, and supporting each other through the inevitable setbacks. The project became a labor of love, not just for both their professional goals, but for their relationship as well. It symbolized the merging of their lives, their talents, and their dreams. As the project progressed, Elara and Lucas found themselves discussing more than just work. They talked about their future, about what they wanted in life beyond their careers. The long hours spent together allowed them to share their hopes and fears, and they began to envision a life together that was not only successful, but also fulfilling and balanced. One evening, after a particularly productive day, Lucas surprised Elara with a question that had been on his mind for some time. They were sitting on the balcony of Elara's apartment, watching the sunset, when Lucas turned to her and said, "Elara, I've been thinking a lot about our future. I love you, and I can't imagine my life without you. I know we've been taking things slow, but I think we're ready for the next step. How would you feel about moving in together?" Elara was taken aback, not because she hadn't thought about it herself, but because hearing Lucas' voice, the idea made it feel real. She looked into his eyes, searching for any hint of doubt, but all she saw was love and sincerity. She knew that this was what she wanted too, to build a home together, to share their lives in a way that felt natural and right. "I would love that, Lucas," she replied, her heart swelling with emotion. "I've been thinking about it too, and I think we're ready. Let's do it, let's make a home together." They spent the next few weeks making plans, deciding how to combine their lives in a way that honored both their individual spaces and their shared dreams. It wasn't just about moving in together. It was about creating a life that was truly theirs, a place where they could grow, love, and build a future. Chapter 14. Building a home. Moving in together was an exciting and challenging experience for Elara and Lucas. They had to navigate the logistics of combining their belongings, deciding on decor, and making compromises on everything from furniture to daily routines. It was a process that tested their communication and patience, but it also brought them closer together. Elara, who had always valued her independence, found herself adjusting to the idea of sharing her space. There were moments of friction, as they both had their own habits and preferences, but these moments were outweighed by the joy of creating a home together. They spent weekends decorating, shopping for new furniture, and even tackling DIY projects that reflected their shared taste. Lucas, who had lived alone for several years, also had to adapt. He learned to appreciate Elara's quirks, like her tendency to leave her shoes by the door, or her habit of rearranging the living room on a whim. In return, Elara embraced Lucas's love of cooking and his need for a well-organized workspace. They found a rhythm that worked for them, learning to balance their needs while respecting each other's space. As their new home took shape, so did their relationship. The act of building a home together reinforced their commitment to each other, showing them that they could work through challenges and find joy in the mundane aspects of daily life. They discovered that love wasn't just about grand gestures, it was about the small, everyday moments that made up their life together. Chapter 15. A proposal of a different kind. With their home finally settled, Elara and Lucas continued to thrive in both their personal and professional lives. Their joint project was gaining attention in the architectural community, and they were frequently invited to speak at conferences and participate in panel discussions. It was a rewarding experience, one that highlighted how well they worked together as a team. One evening, after a particularly successful presentation, Lucas surprised Elara with a different kind of proposal. They were sitting in a quiet corner of a restaurant, celebrating their latest achievement, when Lucas took her hand and said, "Elara, working with you has been one of the most fulfilling experiences of my life. We've built something incredible together, and I want to keep building with you, not just in our careers, but in our lives. What do you think about starting a business together?" Elara was intrigued. She had always enjoyed the collaborative nature of their work, and the idea of starting a business together felt like a natural progression. But it was also a big step, one that required careful consideration. "What kind of business are you thinking about?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "I was thinking about something that combines our strengths, an architecture and landscape design firm that focuses on sustainable, eco-friendly projects. We've already proven that we can work together successfully, and I think we could create something really special. What do you think?" Elara took a moment to consider the proposal. She loved the idea of working with Lucas on a long-term basis, of building something that was uniquely theirs. But she also knew that starting a business was a significant commitment, one that required time, energy, and resources. "I think it's a brilliant idea, Lucas," she finally said, "but we need to make sure we're ready for it. Starting a business together is a big step, and I want to make sure we're doing it for the right reasons." Lucas smiled, appreciating her thoughtful approach. I agree. Let's take some time to plan it out, to make sure we're aligned on our goals and vision. I don't want to rush into anything, but I really believe this could be something amazing for both of us. With that, they decided to take the next few months to research, plan, and prepare. They knew that building a business would be a challenge, but they were excited about the possibilities it held for their future. It was another chapter in their journey together, one that promised growth, adventure, and the chance to create something lasting. Chapter 16. Challenges and Triumphs. Starting a business together was both exhilarating and daunting. Elara and Lucas spent countless hours researching, drafting business plans, and meeting with potential investors. They knew that the market was competitive, but they were confident in their vision for a sustainable design firm that prioritized environmental responsibility and innovation. The early days of their venture were filled with challenges. They had to navigate the complexities of running a business, from securing funding to hiring a team. There were moments of doubt, setbacks that tested their resolve, and days when they wondered if they had taken on more than they could handle. But through it all, they leaned on each other for support. They divided responsibilities based on their strengths. Elara handled the architectural aspects of the business, while Lucas focused on landscape design and project management. Their complementary skills made them a formidable team, and their ability to communicate openly helped them overcome obstacles. As their business grew, so did their reputation. They began to attract clients who were passionate about sustainability and innovative design, and their projects started to gain recognition in the industry. It wasn't long before they were featured in design magazines and invited to showcase their work at prestigious events. Despite the demands of their business, Elara and Lucas made sure to prioritize their relationship. They set aside time for each other, whether it was a quiet dinner at home or a weekend getaway to recharge. They understood that their personal connection was just as important as their professional success, and they were committed to nurturing both. Chapter 17. A life-changing decision. As their business continued to flourish, Elara and Lucas found themselves facing a life-changing decision. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Elara came home to find Lucas waiting for her with a serious expression on his face. "There's something I need to talk to you about," he said, his tone thoughtful. Elara felt a flutter of anxiety. "What is it, Lucas? Is everything okay?" Lucas nodded, but there was a hint of hesitation in his eyes. "I've been offered a position to lead a major international project, one that would require us to move overseas for a couple of years. It's an incredible opportunity, but it's also a big decision. I wanted to talk to you about it before making any decisions." Elara's mind raced. The idea of moving abroad was both exciting and daunting. On one hand, it was a chance to expand their horizons, to take their business to a global level. On the other hand, it meant leaving behind everything they had built in Arindale, their home, their friends, their life. "What do you think?" Lucas asked, watching her carefully. Elara took a deep breath, considering the possibilities. "I think it's an amazing opportunity, Lucas, but it's also a huge change. We would have to uproot our lives, and that's not something we should take lightly. But if this is something you're passionate about, I'm willing to explore it with you. We've faced challenges before, and we've always come out stronger. I believe we can do this together too." Lucas's expression softened with relief and gratitude. "I knew you'd understand. I don't want to make this decision without you. Elara, if we do this, we do it together." They spent the next few weeks weighing their options, considering the pros and cons of such a major move. They consulted with their team, explored the logistics of expanding their business internationally, and discussed what it would mean for their personal lives. In the end, they decided to take the leap. The opportunity was too good to pass up, and they were excited about the adventure that lay ahead. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way, knowing that they had each other to rely on. Chapter 18. New Horizons. The move to a new country was a whirlwind of excitement and uncertainty. Elara and Lucas found themselves in a vibrant, bustling city filled with new opportunities and experiences. It was a fresh start, one that pushed them out of their comfort zone and into a world of possibilities. The new city was vastly different from Arindale, with its towering skyscrapers, diverse culture, and fast-paced lifestyle. While the transition was overwhelming at times, Elara and Lucas embraced the challenge, eager to explore their new environment and make it their own. Their business quickly gained traction in the international market. The city's focus on innovation and sustainability aligned perfectly with their vision, and they soon found themselves working on high-profile projects that challenged them to think creatively and push the boundaries of their designs. The exposure to different architectural styles and techniques broadened their perspectives and inspired them to incorporate new elements into their work. Outside of work, Elara and Lucas took advantage of their new surroundings, immersing themselves in the local culture. They spent weekends exploring the city's historic neighborhoods, trying new foods and attending cultural events. The experience brought them even closer as they navigated the challenges of adapting to a new country together. But the move wasn't without its difficulties. There were moments when the distance from home weighed heavily on them, times when they missed the familiarity of Arindale and the comfort of their old routines. The pressure of running a business in a foreign market also took its toll, leading to long hours and occasional stress. Despite these challenges, Elara and Lucas remained committed to each other and to the life they were building together. They made a conscious effort to maintain balance, setting aside time to relax and enjoy each other's company. They also leaned on the support of new friends and colleagues who helped them navigate the complexities of their new life. As the months passed, they began to feel more at home in their new city. Their business continued to thrive, and they became known for their innovative, sustainable designs that blended the best of their experiences from both Arindale and their new surroundings. Their work not only brought them professional success, but also a sense of fulfillment, knowing that they were making a positive impact on the world around them. Chapter 19. Unexpected Joy. One day, after a particularly grueling week, Elara noticed that she had been feeling unusually tired and queasy. At first, she attributed it to the stress of work and the challenges of adapting to their new life. But when the symptoms persisted, she decided to take a pregnancy test. When the test came back positive, Elara was both thrilled and nervous. She and Lucas had talked about starting a family someday, but they hadn't expected it to happen so soon, especially in the midst of their international move and the demands of their business. That evening, when Lucas came home, Elara decided to share the news. She handed him a small, beautifully wrapped box, a nervous smile on her face. Lucas opened it to find a tiny pair of baby shoes inside, along with the positive pregnancy test. His eyes widened in surprise, and then a broad smile spread across his face. "Are you serious?" he asked, his voice filled with joy and disbelief. Elara nodded, tears of happiness welling up in her eyes. "We're going to be parents, Lucas." Lucas pulled her into a tight embrace, overcome with emotion. "This is incredible, Elara. I can't believe it. We're really going to be a family." The news brought a new layer of meaning to their lives. The idea of becoming parents filled them with excitement and a sense of responsibility. They knew that their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't fully anticipate, but they were ready to face the journey together. Over the next few months, they began preparing for the arrival of their baby. They set up a nursery in their apartment, attended prenatal classes, and read every book they could find on parenting. The experience brought them even closer, as they shared in the anticipation and joy of welcoming a new life into the world. Chapter 20. The Arrival. The day their baby was born was the most beautiful and overwhelming moment of their lives. After hours of labor, Elara finally held their daughter, a tiny, perfect being, with a shock of dark hair and wide, curious eyes. Lucas stood by her side, tears streaming down his face as he gazed at their newborn child. "Welcome to the world, little one," Elara whispered, her voice filled with love and wonder. "We've been waiting for you." They named her Luna, inspired by the moon that had watched over them during so many of their late-night conversations and shared dreams. Holding their daughter in their arms, Elara and Lucas felt an overwhelming sense of completeness, as if all the challenges they had faced had led them to this moment. The first few weeks with Luna were a blur of sleepless nights, diaper changes, and endless feedings. It was a time of adjustment, as they learned to navigate the demands of parenthood while balancing their professional responsibilities. But despite the exhaustion, they were filled with a deep, abiding joy that made every moment worthwhile. Lucas took on the role of a doting father with ease, caring for Luna with a tenderness that melted Elara's heart. He was always there to soothe her cries, change her diapers, and marvel at her every milestone. Elara, too, embraced motherhood with a fierce love, finding strength in the bond she shared with her daughter. As they settled into their new routine, Elara and Lucas realized that becoming parents had deepened their relationship in ways they hadn't expected. They were no longer just partners in business and life, they were a family, bound together by the love they had for their daughter. Chapter 21, A Balancing Act. The arrival of Luna brought immense joy, but it also required Elara and Lucas to reevaluate their priorities. Balancing the demands of their growing business with the responsibilities of parenthood was no easy task. They quickly learned that they couldn't do it all on their own and had to rely on the support of others. They decided to bring in additional help for their business, hiring a capable team to manage day-to-day operations and allow them to focus on the most critical aspects of their projects. This decision not only eased their workload, but also allowed them to spend more time with Luna during her early months at home. They learned to divide their parenting duties in a way that played to their strengths. Lucas, who had a more flexible schedule, took on more of the daytime care, while Elara handled the nighttime feedings and bonding moments. They also made sure to carve out time for each other, recognizing the importance of maintaining their relationship amidst the demands of parenthood. As Luna grew, they found joy in watching her discover the world around her. Her laughter filled their home, and her milestones, her first smile, her first words, her first steps were celebrated with a sense of awe and gratitude. Luna became the center of their universe, and they couldn't imagine life without her. But amidst the happiness, there were also challenges. The demands of their business didn't disappear, and there were times when the stress of juggling it all felt overwhelming. They had to navigate moments of exhaustion, frustration, and even guilt, as they tried to give their best to both their daughter and their careers. In those moments, Elara and Lucas leaned on each other for support. They reminded themselves that they were in this together, that they had built a life that was full of love and purpose, and that they could overcome any obstacle as long as they worked as a team. Chapter 22, Reflections and Realizations. As Luna approached her first birthday, Elara and Lucas found themselves reflecting on the journey they had taken together. They had come so far from the days when they first met in Arendelle, each carrying their own burdens and fears. Now, they were a family, united by love, trust, and shared dreams. One evening, after Luna had been put to bed, Elara and Lucas sat on the balcony of their apartment, looking out at the city lights. The conversation turned to all that they had accomplished and the lessons they had learned along the way. "I never imagined that my life would turn out like this," Elara said, a soft smile on her lips. "When I think back to the person I was when we first met, it feels like a lifetime ago. I was so afraid of opening up, of letting someone in. But you changed that, Lucas. You showed me what it means to truly love and be loved." Lucas squeezed her hand, his eyes full of warmth. "And you showed me that it's okay to take risks, to follow your heart even when it's scary. I'm so grateful for everything we've built together, Elara. You, Luna. Our life, it's more than I ever could have hoped for." They talked late into the night, reminiscing about their journey and sharing their hopes for the future. They both agreed that while their path had been filled with challenges, every step had brought them closer to where they were meant to be. As they sat there, holding hands and watching the stars, they realized that their love had not only survived, but thrived. It had weathered distance, uncertainty, and change, growing stronger with each new chapter of their lives. They knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together as a family. Chapter 23, A New Chapter Begins. With Luna growing and their business thriving, Elara and Lucas began to consider their next steps. They had accomplished so much, but they also knew that there were still dreams they wanted to pursue. One of those dreams was to create a legacy that would extend beyond their business, a foundation that would support environmental and community initiatives, reflecting their commitment to sustainability and social responsibility. They spent months planning the foundation, deciding on its mission and goals. They wanted to focus on projects that would make a meaningful impact, from supporting green architecture and renewable energy initiatives to providing education and resources for underserved communities. The foundation became a passion project for both Elara and Lucas, a way to give back and ensure that their work would leave a lasting, positive mark on the world. As they began to establish the foundation, they realized that it would require a significant amount of their time and energy. They knew they couldn't do it all alone, so they assembled a team of like-minded individuals who shared their vision and dedication. This team would help manage the day-to-day operations of the foundation, allowing Elara and Lucas to focus on strategic decisions and long-term goals. Meanwhile, Luna continued to grow and thrive, filling their lives with joy and wonder. She was an adventurous and curious child, always eager to explore the world around her. Elara and Lucas made sure to nurture her interests, encouraging her to ask questions, explore her creativity, and embrace her love for nature. One day, as they watched Luna play in a park, Elara turned to Lucas with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I've been thinking a lot about the future lately," she said. "About what kind of world we're leaving for Luna and what kind of example we're setting for her." Lucas nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "I've been thinking about that too. That's part of why the foundation is so important to me. I want Luna to grow up knowing that we did everything we could to make the world a better place." Elara smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "I agree, but it's not just about the big things we do, it's also about the small, everyday choices we make. I want to teach Luna the importance of kindness, compassion, and responsibility. I want her to know that she can make a difference, no matter how small." Lucas squeezed her hand, his eyes full of love and admiration. "She's already learning that from you, Elara. You're an amazing mother, and I know that Luna is going to grow up to be someone who makes a positive impact on the world, just like you." They continued to work on the foundation, but they also made a conscious effort to slow down and savor the moments with Luna. They took family trips to explore new places, spent weekends hiking and camping in the nearby mountains, and enjoyed quiet evenings at home, reading stories and playing games with their daughter. These moments reminded them of what was truly important, the love they shared and the life they were building together. Chapter 24: Destiny United. As the years passed, Elara and Lucas saw the fruits of their labor flourish. Their foundation became a respected force in the environmental and social sectors, making a tangible difference in the lives of countless people. Their business continued to thrive, with new projects that challenged and inspired them. Luna grew into a bright, compassionate young girl, full of curiosity and a love for the world around her. But above all, Elara and Lucas found that their love had deepened and matured in ways they hadn't imagined. They had been through so much together, both the highs and the lows, and it had only strengthened their bond. They had built a life that was rich with purpose and filled with love, and they were grateful for every step of their journey. One evening, as they sat together on the porch of their home, watching the sunset, Lucas turned to Elara with a soft smile. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" he asked, his voice full of wonder. Elara leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the warmth of his presence. "All the time," she replied. "It's incredible to think about everything we've been through, the challenges, the changes, the joys, and through it all, we've always had each other." Lucas wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "You're my rock, Elara. I don't know what I would have done without you. You've made my life richer in so many ways." Elara smiled, her heart full. "And you've done the same for me, Lucas. You showed me that love doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real. And what we have is as real as it gets." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. The world around them was peaceful, a testament to the life they had built together. They had faced so many challenges, but in the end, they had found their way together. As the stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, Lucas turned to Elara once more. "Do you think this is what destiny feels like?" he asked, his voice soft with emotion. "To go through so much, to face so many obstacles, and to come out on the other side stronger, more united than ever?" Elara looked into his eyes, seeing the reflection of their shared journey in them. "Yes," she whispered, her voice filled with certainty. "This is exactly what destiny feels like. It's not about everything going perfectly. It's about finding the strength to keep going, to keep loving, no matter what. And when love breaks, it's destiny that brings us back together, that unites us in ways we never imagined." They stayed there, holding each other as the night fell around them, knowing that their journey was far from over. But whatever the future held, they would face it together, united by love, by destiny, and by the life they had built, a life filled with purpose, joy, and the enduring bond that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. The end.